Good morning, everyone, and welcome to the California African American Water Education Foundation's second Water Series broadcast. I am Nikisha Henry, and I am so happy to be your MC for today. And today's topic is access to opportunity, the on-ramp to the water industry. You guys are definitely in for a treat, all of our viewers that are tuned in right now to Facebook Live as well as YouTube Live. Thank you for tuning in and just being open and willing to learn about the opportunities that actually exist in the water industry space for us as African Americans. We hope that you will leave just more informed about water education, apprenticeships, and employment. So, for the next hour, we will be talking to all of the experts about employment opportunities, preparation, and just how to secure a position within the water industry. But before we go any further, we definitely have to thank our sponsors because without them, today's broadcast would not be possible. So we do want to thank the California African American Water Education Foundations, also known as CAAWF, their board. Also, too, just a couple of housekeeping items, you guys. If you are viewing on YouTube and you have questions, be sure to email them to info@caawef.org. And if you're viewing on Facebook Live, you have the option to just type away right there in the comments. All right, so I think we're ready to just go ahead and get this thing rolling. I really am excited to introduce our panelists today. Actually, they're going to introduce themselves. So without further ado, I would like to start with Roger Bailey. He's the general manager for the Central Contra Costa Sanitary District. Try saying that 3 times fast. Welcome, Roger.
Thank you, Nikisha. I want to say thank you to you and the host for inviting us to this conversation. I'm very excited. My background, I'm an engineer by training, and I've been in the water and wastewater business for the past 25 years. And it's a very exciting job. Today, we'll talk a little bit about what I do. I'm the general manager for Central SAN, shortened form for Central Contra Costa Sanitary District. As the general manager, my job is really to implement the goals and the policies of the board. And I also help to set the strategic direction of the operation. I also help to allocate resources that are necessary in order for us to complete our mission. I hire our talented staff, have a staff of about 300 people. And basically what we do, we treat all the wastewater that are in Central Contra Costa County, over 10 agencies or 10 cities that we serve, a population of almost 500,000 people. We do wastewater, and we also do recycled water and household hazardous waste.
Okay, well, you do quite a bit, Roger. So thank you for taking time out of your busy schedule, and we can't wait to hear a little bit more from you later. Next, within our panel, we have Ms. Kelly Bowen. She is the HR Strategic Partner of the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. Welcome, Kelly.
Thank you, Nikisha. My name is Kelly Bowen, and I work for the Metropolitan Water District of Southern California. I'm an HR Strategic Partner. And what we do is we deliver and treat drinking water to the Southern California region. We support 19 million consumers. We actually are water wholesalers. We sell that water to cities and utilities across the Southern California region. I've been with Metropolitan for 21 years. I actually started, hopefully this is an inspiring story for you out there. I started as the receptionist and quickly moved on, spent 10 years in the recruitment and selection area, and then 10 years I spent in the org development area, training leaders and employees. And as of the last year, I'm a human resources manager, and I am responsible for all core HR functions, and really enjoy working for the public agency. I have a master's degree in public administration as well. And I'm glad to be here, hopefully to help guide you and give you some resources.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kelly. And you said you've been working there for 21 years. You look 21. So that is amazing. Yeah.
Thank you. I actually have a 26-year-old, but thank you so much for that.
Stop it. Okay. Well, thank you so much, Kelly. We also can't wait to hear more from you a little bit later. All right, you guys, next on the panel, we have Tim Hampton, the Senior Engineer for United States Army Corps of Engineers. Welcome, Tim.
Well, thank you. Thanks for the lovely introduction. Like she said, I work for the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers. I've been with the Army Corps of Engineers for about the last 18 months. I've worked for a variety of agencies, local agencies, cities, counties, special districts, even worked for the Metropolitan Water District about 15 years ago. So, and I've covered the full range of water resources engineering. So currently I'm working with the Corps. We're doing what you call flood control protection. So I'm responsible for developing contract documents to either construct new projects or either rehabilitate existing projects. And so that's what we're doing now. Previously, I've worked with the water supply industry and also with the sanitary sewer industry.
Wow, amazing. Okay, well, thank you so much for that. And now I have to state the obvious here. You got some workout equipment in the background, so we all gonna have a workout session afterwards. We need to. Is that what we're doing?
the virtual workout. So you guys tell me what to do and I'll do it.
Okay, all right. We're gonna hold you to that now. Save your energy for later. All right. Thank you so much, Tim. Next up, we have Cassandra Jennings. She is the president and CEO of the Greater Sacramento Urban League. Welcome, Miss Cassandra.
Thank you. Thank you, Nikisha. Yes, I have been with the Urban League now for about 4 years. Our mission is really to enable African Americans and other underserved communities to secure economic self-reliance, parity, power, and civil rights. We run a job center. We help people prepare and connect with jobs and opportunities. We do housing counseling and work diligently on reducing the health disparities among people of color and to build wealth. Unbeknownst to me, I had been prepared for this job a long time ago. When I was born in the segregated South, I moved to the North, all the way from North Carolina to Maryland for better opportunities, went to the University of Maryland and got married and moved west. And I have spent a career in municipal government, including in community and economic development, as well as assistant city manager. Here I find myself now at the Urban League 57 years later, from the March on Washington, when Martin Luther King had his I Have the Dream speech. As of tomorrow, it'll be 57 years, and we're still fighting for that dream. And I still believe in that dream today here at the Greater Sacramento Urban League.
Yes, indeed. I just got to give a round of applause for that within itself. That's amazing, Miss Cassandra. Thank you so much. And I know later on we will be discussing, opportunities for getting young African American adults involved. So thank you so much. We can't wait to hear from you on that. And with last but certainly not least, we have a very special guest joining us today, Mr. Dale Hunter, who currently serves as the Executive Director of the California African American Water Education Foundation. So, Mr. Hunter, can you tell us a little bit about CAAWF and just its purpose?
Thank you very much. I have the honor of serving as the Executive Director for the California African American Water Education Foundation. We're based in Sacramento. We are a statewide 501c3 nonprofit organization. We were formed in early 2019, so we are a startup, if you will. The organization is governed by a 9-member board of directors, regionally diverse throughout our state. We have board members from the water industry, from the business community, and we have leaders who have a strong track record of community service. Our mission is simple: to provide education and information to the African American community about local, regional, and state water issues. The panel today is the second in a series of broadcasts that we have launched. If you missed the first one, we had an excellent kickoff with the mayor of Stockton, Mr. Michael Tubbs. We also had a special guest, Mr. Edgar Dimley, who is the chairman of the Water Quality Committee for the Association of California Water Agencies. So our first kickoff was entitled, "Is the Water Safe to Drink?" This panel today, we're really fortunate. We've got pros, we've got experts that's going to give us a real overview of how do we access this very important industry. And if I can, I'd like to take a point of personal privilege and ask for a moment of silence for the Honorable Gwen Moore. The former state legislator from Los Angeles passed away last week. She was the chair of this organization as well as one of the founders. Very, very influential, positive, profound impact on people throughout the state, including me and my wife. And I'd ask that we just take a minute to recognize the Honorable Gwen Moore, legislator from Los Angeles, our former chair and founder of this organization. If you would, a moment of silence for the Honorable Gwen Moore. Thank you all very, very much, and I'll turn it back over to our moderator.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, Dale, for that. And, you know, rest in heaven, rest in peace to Ms. Gwen Moore. She would definitely be missed, as well as her services. So thank you for that. So for all of you that just may be tuning in, we want to welcome you again to the CAAWEF's. This is just our, way to come together to figure out how we can be sure that African Americans are involved within the water industry. So with that being said, the California water industry, it is a multi-billion dollar industry, you guys. We're not talking about bottled water, but we are focused on the companies and agencies that provide us with our drinking water, our tap water, if you will. The water sector in our state employs workers in a wide variety of technical and non-technical jobs. Most California water and wastewater agencies will spend billions of dollars over the next few years to upgrade and improve our water infrastructure. And I say that in quotes because what we need to know is, how do we get access to the job opportunities and the programs that are available to our people, our wonderful African American people? So without further ado, we're just going to go ahead and get started with the panel, you guys, because we have a panel full of experts and they have all of the answers here today. So I would like to start with you, Kelly. I do understand, that you're the HR strategic partner for the Metropolitan Water District. So what specifically, I know you talked about it briefly, but what specifically does your job entail?
So I handle everything from employee relations issues to working with bargaining units. So essentially, you might say that I'm a negotiator. I help our leaders to make the best strategic decisions that they can, hold them to task, hold them accountable for those decisions by helping them to understand the consequences of those. But my staff and I, we handle everything from recruitment and selection to class comp issues, change management initiatives, essentially everything that you would think of in your own personnel department. That's what we do here at Metropolitan. And I was once asked if I could describe what I do in 3 words and speak as if I was talking to an 8-year-old. And I thought about that and I said, what 3 words would I choose? And my 3 words would be, I solve problems. And so that's what I get paid to do, and also to guide our managers in making the right decisions.
Absolutely. Thank you. No, thank you so much for that. And so, you mentioned holding those accountable, and as it relates to specifically what we're talking about as far as having opportunities within the African American community. What exactly are you guys doing to increase the number of African Americans at the agency? And are there any specific programs that you do have that would help with that?
Yes, I am so excited to say that I am so proud of our chairwoman of our board of directors. Her name is Gloria Gray, and we have the first ever African American to hold this position. at large, our organization predominantly over the years was a Caucasian and male. And so not only is she African American, she's female and the first ever. There will never be another first. So I am just so happy during this time that I get to experience it. But one of her goals, essentially from the very start, was diversity and inclusion. And with that, I have been charged with sort of, looking at what's happening and figuring out what we can do. Of course, the current climate has fast-tracked all of this. And so our board of directors, who is chaired by Gloria Gray, has put together a diversity, equity, and inclusion task force. This task force has made it their business to assess essentially what's happening and get the historical data with regards to African Americans. And we've hired a facilitator to, do some action planning and report that back to the board. Internally, we have many programs that help African Americans. Essentially, we have tuition reimbursement, 100% up to $9,000 per year, so that internally our managers can, our employees can educate themselves and qualify for specific positions. I am excited to say as well that we have a new president of our Black Employees Association who's very passionate. Her name is Twani Holmes. And that whole effort, outreach is the key for us and building partnerships. And we also have internally a management program. We call it Metropolitan Management University to help our employees, but attracting essentially those employees, those candidates that want to get into the organization. The key is outreach. And we have dedicated resources. We will be hiring more staff to focus on outreach and partnering with the community. We've done a lot of outreach over the years, but really we are dedicated to throwing more hands on deck for that and partnering and bringing in more African Americans. It starts with the assessment of our historical data, and we know that the numbers indicate that there's underrepresentation. Right. And so we're going to be working on that.
Okay, that's awesome. Well, we know if anybody can do it, you can do it, Kelly.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you for that. All right, so I want to turn it over to Tim. So you work for the United States Army Corps of Engineers. How exactly did you get that job and that fancy title? Oh, I think you're muted, Tim.
Thank you.
There we go.
I've been in the industry for about 35 years. I got my first job actually at a career conference. It was the National Society of Black Engineers conference, the annual conference. They're still having those conferences today. So if there's any Black folks out there that is thinking about going into the engineering field, they should Google National Society of Black Engineers. There's a organization in every state, and they're at most major college campuses. I got my current job just by applying online. USA Jobs is the site that lists all federal jobs. I was down in Southern California and had all three of my children lived in the Sacramento area, and I had 3 of my 4 grandchildren live here. And so I was looking around trying to find a place of employment, and I applied online, and it worked out pretty well because we did the initial interview via Skype, and then after passing that interview stage, I flew up and met my future boss, and I've been working here for the past 18 months, like I say. So it's been a good positive experience. I think it's different from some previous jobs I had where it's a real team approach. I work for small agency, large agency. The smaller agencies, you tend to have to do everything yourself. By the U.S. Army Corps being a larger agencies, you're more discipline specific, and that allows you to sort of focus your energy on one typical area. So I think that's a lot better.
Okay, and so with you, obviously you have 35 plus years experience doing what you do, but do you guys have any entry level or pipeline programs for engineers, who want to get started in that field?
Yeah, we have sort of comprehensive entry level programs. We have an intern program that's specific to the Corps for the Sacramento District. I know I'm working with a couple of different interns in the past at the course since I've been there, and so that is one way that you can sort of get a feel for engineering. That was sort of what I did before, at least while I was in college. It was always good to have like a summer job to get exposed to what the engineering process was, how to understand what you would do once you graduated. But it's also, we have some interns that can come in at the high school level to get that exposure to see if either the Corps or engineering is what they want to do long term.
Oh, well, that's amazing, because a lot of times programs and internships are not available until, a lot of the students are into college, about to graduate college. So to know that you guys actually have something in place for the high schoolers, that's even more motivating. So thank you so much for sharing that. All right, next up, I would like to turn it over to Miss Cassandra. So the urban leagues throughout the country, they have a rich history of job training and preparing people for future employment. Can you talk a little bit about some of the job training partnerships that you have with organizations just within the greater Sacramento region?
Certainly. And in the Sacramento area, we've been at this for about 52 years, but the network across the country has gone up to 110 years that they've really been working on employment, education, and empowerment of African American and underserved communities. In Sacramento, when we think about jobs, we run a full service job center. So we offer an array of services that include soft skill training, identifying gaps and opportunities and barriers for employment, and then offering specific skills, whether it's digital literacy or job readiness, for pretty widespread. We also have targeted approaches where we're actually working with specific organizations with specific outcomes. And I would say that has been very, very successful, especially in corporations that really have a need that we can target and then sort of develop a pipeline and a pathways to success within that industry. And I'll give you two quick examples. Is one in the health industry, where we have worked with the community health workers, which there's a huge need for diversity as people serve people in our whole community that have from various cultures, very specific things. So we partner with the community college, with HealthNet, with WellSpace, with the health providers, and we had a certificated program with specific curriculum with the college. We had training and internships and scholarships. And at the end, the connection with jobs and real good jobs and paying jobs, and then service in the community. And then in a utility company like SMUD, which is our local electricity provider, is that we're able to start with solar energy training, bringing a very diverse group to do that, connect them with the industry, with jobs. And I will say that has led to three-pronged approach, because now we're doing a California Mobility Center that's really training people for mobility jobs for the future, as well as with SMUD, specifically empowering careers. So we have those opportunities to really be targeted and specific that will not only help the diversity within the company, but also the company in delivering their services to the community that we all live and love.
Right. No, that is amazing. And so, I think one of the most important things that you said is being able to train those within those fields, because we do need more diversity, because they are the ones working within our communities. So with that being said, what are the keys to a long-term successful job training partnership? Because, partnerships, sometimes they come and go, they're temporary, they're seasonal, but what are the keys to actually having a long-term? Because as you mentioned, healthcare is so important right now, and that is not going anywhere.
Exactly, exactly. And when you say long term, the first thing I think about is stability and
Mhm.
sustainability. Sustainability. So I think the first key is that it needs to be adequately resourced. In other words, if you're going to do that, you need to put your money where your mouth is and or your time. So
Mhm.
it's important that it's adequately resourced. And then the second thing is really clear communication, because we know what the industry knows what they need, and we are here to serve them. So we need to help to prepare people to get ready for the training from that industry. And then, thirdly, I'll say we really need some measurable goals and success, and monitor those. So we can always be checking to see, are we meeting the mark? Has the mark moved a little bit? And how are we making, as the industry changes, so do we. And then I'll say finally, which sort of summarize all of them, is the commitment. Is there
Right.
commitment from the company, from the corporation or the organization to really make this work? And if we have the commitment and that partnership and the intentionality, then we can reach success.
Wow. Well, definitely some important factors that you mentioned. Thank you so much, Miss Cassandra. And she said it best, y'all. Put your money where your mouth is, because that's what it basically boils down to. Thank you so much for that. All right. And of course, Mr. Roger, I want to turn it over to you. You're the general manager of one of the largest wastewater agencies in the state. So I know you wear many, many hats in doing so, and you probably can't describe your job description in one sentence, but can you just tell us what are some of your responsibilities in that role?
Thank you. I'll do that, but before I do so, let me just quickly tell you a little bit about Central San.
Mhm.
Our mission is to protect public health, and we do that by collecting the waste that is discharged by over 500,000 people within our service area. And we serve an area that is about 144 square miles, over 10 cities in that service area. And in addition to that, we take any household hazardous waste that you have, and we collect that and properly dispose of it. And we also provide recycled water services to certain parts of our community. I work for a
Okay.
board of 5 elected individuals. They're elected at large, and they hired me about 7 years ago as the general manager. As a general manager, my responsibility fundamentally is to help the board to implement its policies and to execute its goals. And I do that by trying to allocate the resources that are necessary to get those things done. I am
Mhm.
also responsible for hiring a talented staff. We have a staff of about almost 300 employees. And we also help to develop the strategic direction of the operation. I spend quite a bit of time behind the scenes advising the board on strategic issues. I am like an advisor to them on many of the things that come up so that they can make the best public policy that are in the interest of our public. So that's
Mhm.
generally the essence of what we do. We do that with a very complex system. We have over 1,500 miles of pipeline in the ground. We have a treatment
Wow.
plant. We have a treatment plant that can treat up to 55 million gallons of waste per day. And in an engineering sense, which may not make any sense to the public, but on a max day, we can treat 94 million gallons per day. So we do collect a lot of waste, and we try to make beneficial use of that after we have treated it, and that's in the form of recycled water.
Okay. And so, when we talk about diversity and inclusion, within the water industry, is it difficult to recruit, African Americans and, people of color within wastewater management? How difficult is that?
It's a very good question. I do think we do have an opportunity here to educate the African American community about the opportunities that are available in the water sector. The water
Mhm.
sector is a very fundamental type of service that everyone have to utilize across the country, across the world for that matter. but most people don't really think about it, including perhaps some African American, perhaps a big bulk of the African American population. But when you think about what we do, we have an entire spectrum of career opportunities. We have engineers, we have accountants, we have computer programmers, we have HR managers. We have we have licensed operators. Our treatment plant has to be operated by licensed operators. We have equipment operators. And all of these positions are very, very well-paying jobs. You can make a solid living working in the water sector, a very solid middle-class living. But unfortunately, I don't think that the information is out there enough, or at least as much as it should be, to the African American community so that they can start to develop an interest in that. So some of the things that we are trying to do is to reach out to the schools and try to intercept kids at a young age. We have some programs that are targeted to the elementary, middle schools, and the high schools. In addition to that, we do have some internship programs. We have a summer student program, and every summer, except for this summer because of COVID, we hire about 30 students from high school. The major requirement is that they must be a senior, and they come in for the entire summer, and they can work with us, and they make a pretty decent salary, about $18, $19 per hour. And that gives them an opportunity to be introduced to the wastewater business. And hopefully by that exposure, they can kind of develop some interest. We also have an internship program for students that are in college, and that's a 6 months program. And that, again, is an opportunity for them to utilize some of the stuff that they learn in college here and hopefully come back when they graduate and work with us full time.
Okay, and thank you for sharing all of the, the different positions and opportunities that are actually available. And I think it is extremely important for, this industry to be introduced to those students that are in high school or maybe entering college at that age, because I honestly can't say that I've ever heard a child say, if you ask them, what do you want to be when you grow up? You usually hear doctor, lawyer, basketball player, rapper, those types of things. But I've never heard a child, and more specifically, any African American child say, I want to be in wastewater management, because again, it is unknown overall. It's not generally known to us. So, I think the information that you or yourself and the rest of our panel that are, sharing today is definitely much needed. So thank you so much for that. So I want to actually open it up for all of our viewers right now who are tuned in. Again, thank you so much for joining this broadcast with us. If you guys have questions, now is the time to ask. All you have to do is just comment below. And that can be anything for any of the specialists, for any of our panelists, that any of our specialists that we have on the panel. If you have a specific question for them, just be sure to note that. But we want to get some Q&A going, because I think, the more that we talk about this, the more that we're able to ask questions and get a better understanding, the more that we can actually put into action the diversity and inclusion that's needed for this industry. So I want to, I kind of want to turn it over to Kelly right now. And as the questions come in, we will, ask them live during the show, and we'll have our panelists answer as well. But so let's just kind of start off the Q&A with you, Kelly, as it pertains to diversity and inclusion. So I know that you guys are doing a lot on your end to make sure that this is put into action. But for other entities within the water, industry, what should that look like when we're talking about diversity and inclusion and actually putting it into action?
To answer your question, really, like Cassandra said, it requires a commitment to elevating equity as a top priority. We've done that at Metropolitan. There's such a momentum behind this now, again, with our chairwoman having this as a directive of hers, and the board supporting the effort. And I think every organization has to do that, so that that commitment can then trickle down into leadership. And then those leaders understand that they are responsible for ensuring that everyone is treated with equity. that everyone has a sense of belonging and a sense of value, that everyone is provided with the with equity in regards to resources and support in achieving their goals. And with that, again, we have created the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Task Force that will be reporting back to our board. So organizations do need to have that accountability piece and consequences and a reporting structure to ensure that these initiatives are followed through on, and it's not just something for the right now. I think there's so much momentum behind what's happening socially in our environment, and we have to do a full court press. And so I am committed to that and ensuring that our leaders are aligned on that initiative and communicating that down as it's coming from our executives and our C-suite and our board of directors. One thing really quickly, if I could, Nikisha, can I go back to the entry point? Because I think it's essential for me to say, just piggybacking on Cassandra and Roger, we also have a pre-apprentice program, and we recruit for this program every 2 years. We don't essentially have a problem with sourcing candidates. However, because the program, also I'll tell you a little bit more about the program. All that requires is for applicants to have a high school diploma or what's equivalent to a GED, and they can apply for the program and be trained. It's a 4-year program, and be trained as a full-time paid employee from entry level all the way to journey level. And the issue that we're having, again, is not sourcing a pool of talent qualified. However, there's a test that is required to move on to the interview process, and a lot of times, and that test is equivalent to sort of like a high school exit exam, and a lot of times we see that African Americans are not performing well on those tests just because they don't have the information ahead of time that you really have to prepare for an exam like that. There's a math component, and I really want to get the word out there that you can go to any bookstore or even online and get those thick books that help you to prepare for these types of exams. And then we can see, once they get that that understanding that when you show up, you have to be prepared to take this exam, and then you can move on to the interview process. The hires are driven by the people that advance. It's essentially driven by the test scores.
Okay. No, thank you for sharing that. And we do have a question from one of our viewers, Stephen Welch. He asks, how can we better reach the African American community at the school age to promote early interest in water careers? And so I'll let any of you answer that. I would say advertising and marketing is huge, you know, within our community, especially because we're visual. And what can we do? How important is it to visually appeal to the African American community? Because we have to face it. We're in a virtual world. Everything is social media and what they see and what looks cool, and you know. So I'll let any one of you can take that. But how important is that?
I would take a stab at that, and want to say thanks to Steve for the question. Steve is a very innovative leader, the general manager of Central Contra Costa Water District, and he's a colleague of mine. A very good question. I do think that we do have an opportunity as agencies in the water business to reach out to those communities, and those communities that have African Americans. We need to have some sort of partnership with the schools. One of the things that Central San is doing, not just for the African American communities, but for our kids in general, we have some programs that are targeted to the schools, the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools. But it's not just that. We also connect with the teachers. Last year, for example, we sponsored a 1-week program in which we helped the teachers to develop a curriculum that focused on water. And they came here for a week, and we showed them what we do, and we obviously fed them with lunch and all that good stuff. But we actually took them around the plants, and we walked them through the entire system. so that they can go back in the classroom and somehow find a way to incorporate the science of water in their curriculum. But beyond that, we also team up with the schools during the career fair period so that kids will understand that this is an option for them. We do have some programs that are targeted to the elementary schools, first grade, second grade, third grade, and fourth grade. And we also have some that are targeted to middle schools, and we partner with some other agencies so that we can leverage some of our resources to get a bigger bang for the buck, so to speak. So I do think we have an opportunity to really actively reach out to the schools and get the teachers involved and the parents and the kids. And it's a very, very multifaceted approach that we're taking.
Really quickly, I'd like to add that we also have an education unit spearheaded by an African-American male. His name is Adrian Hightower, and that unit is responsible for interfacing with schools at the grade school level. And we've done a lot of outreach with schools, different activities and partnerships. And I always say that it might only take just one visit to a lab or one visit to a pipeline at that very young age to get a child interested and exposed to a world that they had never, and they might not ever forget those types of field trips and then want to be a scientist or want to be an engineer.
Yeah, and if I could just add, sort of combine with all, I do think that partnerships are important, because as much as you guys are in the communities, you are not in the communities every day like many of the nonprofit and community-based organizations are, working with the schools and the youth to educate. So I don't know about you, but I didn't one day wake up and somebody said to me one time, "You're going to college," and then I went to college, right? It started and it was consistent throughout. And so I think through partnerships, you can be consistent. I think we can't give enough emphasis on the cultural sort of layer that needs to be to reach different populations in different ways, whether it's marketing or outreach, or even the way that you communicate information in the way people see it. So I agree that, and we have to be a layer over the schools. Schools have so much burden on them that we need to help. So I appreciate the companies doing it, but educate all of us so that it can become a household conversation.
Yeah, absolutely. And Dale, would you like to chime in? Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just the one thing I would add, and it's been said, it's got to be on purpose. It can't be something that's a drive-by because the moment says we got to do something. So your programs for the young people, that's the generation we want to target. And Kelly mentioned some of the stuff that they do in Met. Roger mentioned some things. I think one of the things we'll look at is what's the best case? Who's doing really good work with educating young people about these opportunities? Not just sending them information, but actually taking them on a tour. Let them kick the tires. You'll be amazed what a 9-year-old can do once he's been in front of a big facility and how that might spark their imagination. So yes, it's important. There are some really good programs that we can look at and adopt and make sure we're focusing on what works. It's got to be on purpose, and it can't be the flavor of the month. It's got to be, like Cassandra said best, it's got to be a commitment that's beyond just what's happening now. Because if you're going to educate young people, you start early, and hopefully by the time they get to high school, they've got some entree programs to get them right into the industry.
Yeah, and I think, the two important words, sustainability and commitment. So, thank you guys so much for that. And I believe we had a question from one of our viewers, Sonia Stanchina. Hopefully I'm saying that last name right. And maybe this one is for you, Dale. How can others help or volunteer with CAAWEF, specifically to help communicate water agency job awareness and access?
This actually came up in our prep call yesterday. We, as the California African American Water Education Foundation, probably need to do some resource links so that if folks are interested in different opportunities they can access our website and get the link. That's one way. The other way is to share information. If you are a water or wastewater agency, you can certainly share information with us. That's one way to get it out. We've got Ms. Cassandra here in Sacramento, an excellent community leader in the work that she's doing. That's another way to get the information out. So I would just, in response to the question, provide us with the information. We'll help get the resources in terms of a link to help people get the information. Most of it is just getting the information. We're in 2020 and we're still talking about access. But the reality is you get the information out.
Okay, absolutely. Thank you so much for that. And then if you're tuning into all of the information as far as the websites, they are scrolling across on the bottom, so be sure to visit those as well. All right, so we have another question for Johnny Tsunami. Oh, I like that name. Okay, I have a small engineering business. He says, I have a small engineering business. What is the consultancy process like? Furthermore, how do you bid for these projects? Very good question, Johnny. Who would like to answer that?
I can take a first stab at that. We are, as an agency, the water wastewater business is very engineering centric. There's a lot of what we do that has to be designed by engineers and has to be managed by engineers through the construction project process. And so there are opportunities, a lot of opportunities for consultants to team up with us to get our work done. And as an example, for Central San, on an annual basis, right now we spend over almost $80 million on our CIP program. And a lot of that are projects that consultants help us to design and manage through the construction phase. We normally advertise these jobs. We send out what we call a request for proposal. And normally we try to get all of the major outlets that one may find these things. And you to the extent you have interest in it and you have the skill set, you submit the information consistent with the RFP or the request for proposal. And then we do set up a selection process. And that selection process is very transparent, but you have to submit on it. And once you do that, we go through that process and finally make a selection. But we are on an annual basis, we're working with at least 10 to 20 engineers on different projects, and engineers meaning consulting firms. So that tells you that there's a lot of opportunities out there that you should be following. And to the extent that you're not aware of it, then I would suggest that you get in contact with the agencies like mine and find out how you might be able to get information. The other thing that I would suggest to the consulting firms is to look at our budget. The budget is a key document that tells you where our focus is. And in the case of the consultants, the CIP or Capital Improvement Program really has a structure there. It's a budget that we have. It tells you what the projects are, what the estimated costs for the projects are. And to the extent that those are projects that has to be designed and constructed, then you as a consultant can determine whether or not that is of interest to you. And you can reach out to us and figure out what the schedule is for us to design and construct those projects.
If I can add to
for us.
Oh, go ahead, Kelly, and then Dale.
Okay. I would say for us, just very quickly, the process is very much the same. You can go to our website and actually enter your information just at a general level into a database that we call Planet Bids, and you will be notified when we have appropriate RFPs. When we put those out, you'll be notified so that you could submit the proposal. So I would advise you to go into our website and sign up for that notification.
Okay, thank you, Kelly. Dale?
I was going to add, business is local. So the response to the question, step one is, who is your local water provider? If you live in Fresno, Los Angeles, Sacramento, Who do you get your water and wastewater from? So that's step one. Second step is look on their website, on their procurement list. This is business that's coming up that you could bid on. Third thing is get on that bid list so that whenever anything comes up, whether it's in your area of expertise or not, you'll know about it. You can share it with your friends, but you got to do a little homework as a businessman or woman. Find out who your provider is. Get on their website, find out what kind of business opportunities they have. Make sure you get sent all of the information about business, and then stay vigilant, because you've got to not only submit your material, but you have to stay vigilant. And squeaky wheel does get attention. So I would say start with your local agency first. And if you don't know, then you have an assignment. Who is your local water provider? Most people don't know that. And then start there and then work your way through the process.
Awesome. Awesome.
I would like to add also, what you should consider doing is looking at some of the professional societies, the American Water Works Association, and creating some network opportunities so that you can reach out to them and connect with both the agencies themselves and other consultant firms. So if you have a small consultant firm, you may consider partnering with a larger firm to bid on larger jobs.
Absolutely.
And they're also a statewide organization, and both the statewide African American chambers, the local chambers, they've been very engaged in this as well. So you've got a natural resources, whether it's your local chamber or your African American chamber. I know here in Sacramento, we've got one of the best California African American chambers in the state. And so they can be helpful as well. You have resources. You're not alone. You just got to make a phone call or hit send.
Absolutely. Thank you all so much for that. So we have another question, and hopefully, Johnny, that answered your question. So basically, like Dale said, a squeaky wheel gets the attention. So, just go online and do the research. The information is definitely accessible in there for you. So next question is from Penny Toller. Are there any success stories from your outreach programs concerning African Americans, the African American community, and how do you track the program process to make sure your outreach is successful?
Good question.
Very good question. Yeah. Any one of you can chime in on that.
Well, I'll start from a more sort of global perspective that outreach is real important to us, and we do culturally sensitive things to reach communities. So, and in order to get those that need to be pipelined in certain industry, our outreach has to be broader, because not everybody wants to do water, for example, or utilities or healthcare, and then not everybody is ready to do it either. So the outreach has to be broad, and then we try to really get the prerequisite help to prepare people and get people sort of on the pathway that they're most interested in. And even if they're not ready, if they're interested, then you're halfway there, right? So we didn't do that. We work with the employer if we have internship programs, and we do case management. So we follow through and support them in many aspects and then measure the success. In most of our programs, we have specific measurements. They need to complete training. They need to complete whatever the metrics are. And then we need to place them in a job and then see how long they stay there. So for us, that's how we assist with the employers when we're trying to pipeline people into the different pathways.
Okay. Anyone else? Have you been able to track the actual success from your outreach programs for African Americans, and are you tracking it?
I'll just give a quick success story, and it perhaps a little bit self-serving, but Central SAN hired me, the board of directors hired me 7 years ago as the general manager. And I was the first African American to be in this position. And I also was the first general manager to be hired from outside in over 30-something years. And so I
Wow.
think you have to give credit to the board. We serve a population that is less than 5% African American. And this board
Mhm.
outreach, and they hired me. And I think they're very happy with the job that I'm doing. And so that's just to me a small example of a success story in which open minds kept an open and flexible approach, and they hired the best
Mhm.
talent for the position. And over time, it has panned out to be a very good decision that they made.
Mhm.
I,
Amazing.
Yeah,
I
I
think,
could just, oh, I was just going to
go ahead.
add that, yeah, Roger, and I think Kelly is a great success story as
Aw,
well.
Mhm.
But
thank
just
you.
real quickly, we had somebody just in the health industry, in this community health worker, somebody who had come in who had not gotten her GED. And then she was struggling with math, and then we had her to work on a high school diploma, and we had her in a training program here. She went through the community health workers program, that's the one with the community college, with the industry, with experience, with contacts, and then now she is successfully working with HealthNet in a better paying job, in the career that she wants, in a culture wants. So just that's the start. Going from I can't figure this out and until now being very successful in that industry.
Mhm. Thank
I
you for
think
sharing.
also, I think also some of it is just basic exposure. They don't know that there's a brother like Roger or a sister like Kelly or the top engineers at the United States Army Corps of Engineers. So some of it is they just need to see us. You
Mhm.
relate to people in a different way. So the fact that we're having this, and can't keep track of who's viewing it, but we have African Americans who are at the top of their game talking about an industry they're very knowledgeable about. And that's one of the outreach, exposure. They get to see us. We're talking about access and opportunities. The other thing I think, just in terms of outreach, at some point there's a report card that's going to come due with every industry in the state of California. Not a narrative about what we should have did, but what did you do and what's the letter grade? And for some, I think it's going to be a C- or a D+. So one of the things I think is happening throughout the America now, people are asking for the report card, not the narrative, the report card. What did you do? Let's see the numbers and let's pull those numbers out. If those numbers represent a D+, I don't know about your family, but that's a whooping for me. So a
Yeah.
D+ for some is not good, but the report card is coming due. And I think part of what we're doing is trying to make sure that we can pump up those grades a little bit in one industry. At least that's how we look at it from the California African American Water Education Foundation.
Great.
Right.
Absolutely. And I
Yeah.
do think that because there's such a highlighting, a spotlight on this issue, we really do have the momentum to see some true change and some action during this time. And just to address the question, I think that at large, collecting and assessing that historical data, maybe it didn't have the forefront of the focus, but now it does have the attention that it deserves. So this will be the benchmark going forward, how we attract and retain African Americans, and what then after, even a year or 5 years, that report card does look like. And so I'm committed to that
Yeah.
effort.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you guys for that. And it's hard to believe, but we are pretty much coming to a close with this broadcast. I mean, time really does fly when you're having fun and talking water. I mean, that's just the way it goes. So before we end, though, and before we close out, I definitely want to just get any last thoughts from all of the panelists. If we can, 30 seconds or less, just something that you can leave with our viewers from today. So, Roger, we'll start with you. I'm just going to kind of go in order from as I see you. Yes.
Well, I want to say thank you. This was a very good conversation that we're having. I would like to leave with the young kids the thought that when you work in the water business, you're making a difference. And it's a rewarding feeling. And at the same time, you can make a very good livelihood. Consider us.
Thank you, Roger. All right, Miss Cassandra.
Thank you. I would say it's all about access, exposure, experience, and opportunity. Let's be committed with the diversity and inclusion and move to action.
Move to action. I love it. Thank you, Ms. Cassandra. All right, Tim, any last words?
Yeah, I just want to thank you guys for allowing me to speak here, and hopefully we give some people some insight and look forward to seeing more engineers in my career field. So just want to say thank you.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tim. And Ms. Kelly.
I would like to say thank you as well for having me. And for those job seekers out there, you have to be prepared to come for your job interview as well. When you get a job in the water industry, we're not just looking for water people. We have graphic designers, we have photographers, accountants, IT professionals. And when you do apply for a position, I have had many people tell me that they have had to try multiple times and apply for jobs multiple times. So if you apply the first time and don't get in, just remember to just have that tenacity to continue to apply. And like Roger said, you can have a lucrative, long tenure and a lifelong career with excellent benefits. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Kelly. Tenacity is so important and so key. Thank you for that. And last but certainly not least, Dale.
I would just say engage. Nobody needs to be sitting on the sidelines. Engage.
Short, sweet, and to the point. Thank you, Dale. We all need to definitely stay engaged. So, you know, all of the information, thank you all so much for everything that you have shared. The information was invaluable, you know, and it was great advice, you know, on just how to break into the water industry. So again, thank you to all of our amazing panelists. Thank you to our audience for tuning in, and keep the questions coming, you guys. It does not end here. There, as you can see, this board, these panelists, they are committed to this work, to the diversity and the inclusion of African Americans within the water industry. So please do not hesitate. And as Dale said, don't sit on the sidelines. Keep engaged, get involved, because we can make a change within the water industry. So thank you all so much. Again, your moderator, Nikisha Henry. God bless all of you all, and please stay safe out there. Stay safe.
Thank you.
We'll see you guys next time.
Everybody.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.